to the November Manhattan Community Board 4 meeting of Waterfront Parks and Environment. I'm Leslie Bogosian Murphy, co-chair. Marty DeCat, the other co-chair, unfortunately could not be here. Thank you, Katie. Could not be here tonight. He had a personal issue that he had to deal with. And this is our preamble that we are saying at the beginning of every meeting. MCB4 has adopted a hybrid meeting policy whereby we will meet both in person and virtually. All community board committee meetings will require an in-person quorum to come to order and conduct business. Board members are expected to attend meetings in person unless they have a disability or an extraordinary circumstance as defined by the New York State Open Meetings Law. Excused committee members and members of the public will still be able to participate virtually. Committee members who are joining via Zoom must leave their cameras on. We encourage members of the public to join virtually. The MCB4 hybrid policy can be found on our website. Tonight's meeting is still being recorded and is currently live streaming on YouTube. And also it will be on our YouTube channel. If you miss it, you can always go back to it to refresh. I guess we can get right back into it. I just wanted to confirm, Janine, we do have a quorum or we don't?
We do with David.
I know, that's one.
Yeah, we do with David. Yeah.
Okay, great. So on our, we have 2 items on our agenda outside of old business, new business. And it is New York City Parks is here to present on Penn South Playground. If you guys remember, they presented their first design. We pontificated, we sent a letter, and I think they are coming back now after talking with the council member's office with a second design. So it's kind of just a living, breathing thing right now, but hopefully we can comment again on it. If you could bring over, I guess, Steve and Max, they can start.
Well, Leslie, could you also bring over our 3 staff members from our Capital Division? We have Alex Kozar, John Ernsberger, and Leslie Peoples.
Okay, I'm bringing them over now.
Thanks. Steve, I'm sorry to interrupt your dinner.
Oh God, is it that obvious? Damn it.
No, you look like, I mean, it looks very official. You're like in a war room. You're like in the Parks war room or something.
Yeah, we got cheesesteaks tonight.
Yeah.
Come on.
Hi, John. Great.
Yeah.
Is there one more?
Yeah, let the record show that we purchased the cheesesteaks from a restaurant in the Community Board 4 area.
Exactly.
We're very happy to hear that. Oh, there's
Everyone's over now. So.
Great. Okay, you know what, guys? Parks, it's all yours.
Okay, so as you mentioned, we presented our initial design for Penn South Playground back in September, and you gave us extensive comments, and so did Council Member Botcher, and as you indicated in the letter that you sent to us, the council member asked that we revise the design to once again include 2 basketball courts. So we went back to the drawing table, and we did that. We revised the design, and we're going to show you now what we've come up with, and we'll show you what we had before and the new design proposal. And you know, this you know, there are still elements of the design that are being considered and being discussed, but this is a very significant change that we thought we should show you, and especially since you asked us to show it to you. So let me turn this over to Alex Kozar, our landscape architect in charge of this project, and he's joined by 2 of his colleagues, John Ernsberger, a senior landscape architect, deputy director for the Manhattan team, and Leslie Peoples, who is our director of design for Manhattan. And I ask you to be particularly kind to Leslie tonight because this will be her last public presentation before she leaves us and goes off on something called retirement. So I ask you to be kind to her. You can do what you want to me and to the others, but be kind to Leslie.
Steve, we're always kind to Leslie. It's just
I
you.
know, I know.
Thank you.
It shouldn't have been necessary to say, but I just wanted her to know that I'm looking out for her interests.
All right. Thanks, Steve. And thank you to the members of the community for seeing us again. So we'll just walk through a little bit of background on the site and then get to showing you the design that we initially showed back in September and the revisions that we've made since then. So just a little bit of context. We're in Chelsea on 26th Street between 8th and 9th Avenue with a small connection of the site that connects down to 25th Street as well. Here are the existing conditions of the site. Currently, there are 2 basketball courts and 1 volleyball court on the left-hand portion of the site. On the right hand, where you see the red and black checkered colors, that's where the safety surface and the play equipment is. Along the back of that same area, there are some game tables and benches along the plant bed as well. And along the alleyway that connects down to 25th Street, there is asphalt with painted games of the area that was previously, up until recently, the dog run. Here is a view of that main entrance from 26th Street, showing the kind of old outdated play equipment that we'll be looking to upgrade, as well as the seating area that's kind of by the flagpole, and the courts which are over on the right. And here is a better view of the court area. We have the volleyball court and the 2 basketball courts. We have these small tree pits that you can see with the existing trees, and all of the chain link fence against the building, which will be coming down as part of this project. So here is the design that we initially came to you with back in September. In this scheme, we have 1 basketball court and 1 volleyball court on the left-hand side here. And this was done as a result of some of the feedback we received during the initial community input meeting back when the project first started, that there was a request for greater inclusivity and actually request for swings as well in addition to that. So during that meeting, we determined that taking some of that extra space from the courts back would be a prudent idea. So we incorporated the swings and this sway fund, which is just above the swings. It's a ramped unit that allows wheelchair users up onto it and has a kind of horizontal swaying motion. And a lot of the play equipment will be unchanged in between the schemes, as you'll notice later, but we have the 2 to 5 play areas on the top right. In the blue, there's a spray shower, and on the bottom left of that kind of area is the larger 5 to 12 play area with ramps and slides and things to climb on. And we also have the elephant statue relocated within the safety surface, similar to how it is now near the main entrance to the play area, which is gated as well. And along the top of the site, that's where we have the passive seating. There were a lot of calls for that from the input meeting as well, so that was incorporated towards the front of the site rather than the back, where sometimes if that's located along the back by the buildings, you get more undesirable behavior along there. Now we'll show you the revision that we made after hearing the feedback from the community board and from Councilmember Botcher. So here we have 2 basketball courts and 1 volleyball court, 1 larger size basketball court, one a little bit smaller, but still within our regulations. And you'll notice that the play equipment stays the same, and the entrances and the gates up there stay the same as well, so there's no change there. The major change is that the swings come out to make room for the extra basketball court, and the volleyball court stays essentially where it is now. Because the play equipment comes out, we actually have opportunity to expand the passive seating area along the top of the courts a little bit more, and we have decorative pavement going in there. We can squeeze in a little bit more game table seating as well. And we also have from your resolution last time, we have cited a potential future location for the Portland Loo just above the volleyball courts in that pavement area. And that's kind of outside of some of the tree zones.
That's a single occupancy restaurant.
Yeah, I'm sorry, John, are you making it clear that it may not necessarily be something called the Portland Loo? It, that's a brand name. We haven't quite tested that out yet. So it may end up being some other bathroom facility and not necessarily under the name of the Portland Loo. Let me just clarify that.
Thank you, Steve. Yeah, those are in the initial pilot phase of the project. So this is something of a similar footprint that could be placed here in the future. That would not be included in this project as we don't have the funding for it currently and was not in the initial scope of the project. Now we can walk through some additional context slides as well. Here are the two schemes side by side. You can see how essentially the swings, the initial design which we came to you with in September is on the left and the revised design is on the right. The area where the swings were, you can see clearly come out to make room for that volleyball court, and the extra basketball court gets fit in between. And the passive seating area changes slightly, but the total number of seats and game tables is maintained throughout. And the playground remains the same. And here's an image of the swings and the sway fun unit and some of the play panels, which are an inclusive feature as well, which would be coming out as part of that revision. So we have 4 swings, 1 accessible swing, and the sway fun, which would be removed to make way for that extra basketball court. And these are just images of the 5 to 12 play area equipment, ramps and play panels and steps and slides and things to climb. And this is the 2 to 5 unit, which would be also unchanged, just as a refresher with a unit and a play dome and some other play panels as well. And these are some more of those inclusive play features like the play dome, some of the ramped play units. We have some painted games which are going along the more narrow portion of the site. The whirly gig with hand crank, which is these towers where the red dial here can be spun from a wheelchair, and it kind of spins the top part as another inclusive feature. And the triple hoop, which was also along the more narrow portion, which would be incorporated with a kind of spiral painted game design to activate that narrow space. And here is the spray shower, also again unchanged as with everything in the playground space. We have the spray loops, which are inclusive and wheelchair users can roll through, as well as a fountain spray, and each has their own bollard to turn either the spray loops or the fountain spray on. And here are those 2 designs that we're showing you here today, and we're looking for clarity on how to proceed with either the initial design or the revised design so that we can move forward with our review process. So we'd be happy to take any comments or questions at this point.
Thank you so much, Alex. I'm gonna give it to the committee, but I just have a clarification.
Sure.
So what was removed? Because it seems like what was removed are the 2 big items that were for children with special needs or disabilities, and the whole point of this playground, I thought, was a special destination for the children who could look forward to those accessible play areas. Or
yeah, so that was the initial feedback that we got from the community input meeting, and that's why that was what we initially brought to you. The request to have the additional basketball court put in was after the meeting, so that's what we kind of incorporated. And in order to maintain the space for the play units themselves, the swings take up a lot of space, and basically you can see kind of in between the 2 that the volleyball court essentially is the entire footprint of the swing area, and that is kind of the space that needed to be sacrificed in order to accommodate the extra court that was requested from the council member.
okay, so just if you guys can give me some clarity, Is
Sure.
this a special, you know, this was touted, there was a press conference, this was a wonderful special destination for children of all abilities, right? And that's what, this was a quote unquote, a destination playground. And then what was just taken away was two big items that made that special destination, or am I incorrect?
Well, I think you're correct that those are two items that that certainly would be utilized by children of all abilities. But what you should not lose track of is that we still have a substantial amount of play equipment and a spray shower, which are also geared to children of all abilities. So it's still a much improved playground, which is going to be utilized by children with and without disabilities.
No, I understand there's a ramp and I get it. There's wide, you know, there's wide spaces for a wheelchair. I understand that, but those were some very special features. You know, but we'll probably revisit that. I'm just gonna go to the, let me, Brad, go ahead. We'll go around.
I would like their support. I mean, do we want to have a volleyball court, or do we want to have? Now he's got both basketball courts, they just, you know, I mean, is that something we should consider or talk to Eric about, because then we get best of both worlds. And by the way, one of the basketball courts could have the lines for the volleyball and the poles to be put into the ground, so it could be used for multiple things. And then if there really is a volleyball need, which I'm not too sure about, then it could be utilized then. Also, we talked about, we wanted to be the pilot program, Steve, for solar lighting. I was wondering if any of that was brought up. So I think they can't answer, they were told to do this. I think it's something that we gotta talk
Amongst
and say,
ourselves.
is it really worth to have that, and can we incorporate the volleyball court with the lines that could be used when they need, you know, the posting, so.
Stephen or Alex, actually, can you, because I was at the meeting, I didn't know this, but evidently there is a regular volleyball group or league or that comes every weekend, right? Or they come often, and this is their court. I mean, they have been for a very long time. But if you can, you know, clarify that for Brad on, because we haven't heard from them specifically, but I just happened to be at that meeting, Steve, when you were at the Penn South community meeting. But if someone can just give Brad some clarification on the volleyball group that uses that area.
Yeah, my understanding is that it is actively used, and our park manager was actually pretty strong on that point. That is, especially apparently on weekends, that it is heavily used, and we thought it best to, frankly, we did think about whether or not we could put the volleyball court, you know, overlap it on one of the basketball courts, but we frankly were afraid that that would create conflicts, and because the basketball courts are also apparently well utilized, so you know. We thought it wasn't going to be feasible.
So I think, Brett, I think it is, I mean, we don't know, I haven't heard them come to see before or anything, but I think it is used by a
That's great.
volleyball group.
That's great. There's been many public meetings about it. Now, one person showed up to talk about volleyball. I'm not saying we take it away.
Well, they came to the planning meeting.
Oh, they did.
Yeah.
They did, yeah.
My kids play volleyball on basketball courts with volleyball lines every weekend, all the time. And I don't know why we can't do that here. And then give the little kids and the handicapped people what they need. This is called park sharing. This isn't, we put a court there that's not touched 5 days a week, and then Saturday and Sunday, now it's used. That's not good planning.
Can you guys give
And
us
also, just
clarification on the usage? With that, I mean, I know you just touched upon it, that you don't want conflict, like we're seeing in some other parks with pickleball, right? Like, there's a usage for this particular space, and then pickleball people, I'm not saying it's their fault, I'm just saying other people come and use that same space, and now there's conflict between two groups. Is that what you're trying to avoid here, or what is, like, just give us a little bit of the thinking, so when we write our letter or make comments, we'll know where we're talking from.
I think you're right. I think we're trying to avoid those kinds of conflicts between different user groups, and I think our experience is that the basketball players tend to be younger kids, and the volleyball players are maybe older or maybe adults, and we didn't want to create that kind of a conflict.
And then the other one, if that's not the solution, I know we talked about at this board adding low basketball hoops. We said it multiple times. I would love to see them to put on the side, you know, so they could have a short hoop to play on. Or if we're gonna keep the volleyball court, we could put the short ones there for the rest of the week. So I mean, it would be my vote to put the volleyball court inside the small basketball court, utilize it as both. I also think if we're gonna keep a volleyball court there, it should be pickleball too, for the rest of the week, you know, if it's gonna stay. So they're used for multiple things, not just one. Or a hockey net at the volleyball note and the both sides, so they can play rollerblade hockey. You know, we can't just have one sport there. So that's my opinion. And I would like to see the solar lights. I don't see that. And I want to see would like to see the mini hoops. I know we talked about it many times. Not the ones in the short corridor, but an actual short, low rim. Otherwise, it's great. And then also-
My understanding on the short hoop is that we have problems with people dunking on a shorter hoop because people don't necessarily honor the age that it's intended for, and so we have durability issues, concerns
Yeah.
with that.
It's
you know.
definitely made to dunk on, yes, it is. And we can't build a park that we can't say we can't maintain. I mean, this is what we're here for. So, I mean, you can make the rims 12 foot high and they would never lose their nets. I mean, we just can't, we can't build and design that. For future toilet, are you guys gonna run the future wasted water there? So when we do get our toilet, it's not ripping up the entire park and shutting it down?
We are looking into that kind of planning so that we wouldn't have to rip up the newly constructed park. We're looking into that, what that would entail. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm also curious, what would be the dollar value if Eric might have some discretionary budget to say you're putting in the future plumbing in this one, I could pull off a bathroom there for the money. I'm just curious. Thank you.
Okay, with regard to that second basketball court, Steve. I know Eric asked for a second basketball court, but you didn't get a full-size court in there. It is.
The under 12 is what.
It's specific, I mean, is that what Eric asked for? I'm not clear, because I don't know what the hell Eric asked for, so I'm not clear if he was asking for.
Asked for it.
Wasn't in our letter.
I know it wasn't in the letter, but it was in our talking
Right,
points.
but I'm wondering where why it's, if we're getting a second court, why it's not a full-size court. The volleyball court on the old design looks like it's lined for pickleball, and on the new one, it's not. To go to Brad's point. And finally, I didn't hear any mention of the height of the fence.
So regarding the volleyball court, it's not lined for pickleball on the old one. That was just the way the plan was rendered. There's no difference in the volleyball graphics that we're showing there. In terms of the fence, it's an ongoing discussion with the commissioner. We're actually meeting with her next week to discuss the fence height. We showed last time that it was a 4-foot fence, and we understand your strong desire to maintain the 7-foot fence, and that's what we'll be discussing with her next week. It was supposed to be yesterday, but the meeting unfortunately got moved, so we'll be talking to her next week about that.
At least I'm not going to speak for the committee, but from my standpoint, I can't support anything on this park with a 4-foot fence.
Yep.
And then, I asked about if Eric specifically was asking for that smaller, the half-size or 3/4 size basketball court.
Yeah. We didn't receive any kind of size constraints in the request. Quite frankly, by keeping it smaller, the size of the volleyball court, we were able to include some of the passive seating that was strongly requested during the input meeting.
Yeah, you also get the full width. You'll notice that the 3-point line isn't truncated on the side. You get a
Yeah.
nice width because there's an existing tree there. Isn't that right, Alex? That
Yeah,
kind of,
that really prevents us from extending that all the way up.
yeah,
All
so
right,
this way you get the
if-
nice width.
If what the
And
council.
we're also able to add more greenery and permeability to the plan, which we understood was also a concern of yours.
Okay, but Steve, if the council member's concern was that he wanted a second full-size basketball court, we're not fulfilling his request and we're taking away, as Leslie said, what was supposed to be the key feature of this park, that it was supposed to be, accessible for all. And to lose that and not even give the council member what he was asking for, if he was expecting a full-size basketball court, I think this trade-off doesn't make a lot of sense.
I just want to point out that the existing court is not a full size because it's actually quite narrow. As Alex
not
just
lined as
pointed out.
it's not lined as a full court. It's just two separate hoops. There are no sidelines or anything like that.
Okay, but if the request was for a second court, I'm just wondering what area, I can't read.
I think the intent, but I can't read his mind, but I thought the intent was that to maintain the amount of basketball was the intent that I received.
Yeah, but all right, but if they're currently 2 hoops.
Yeah,
There's-
I can go back to the existing conditions.
Go
Yeah,
back.
that could help.
Well, there should be 4 hoops.
Yeah, there's 4.
That's what I'm wondering, Steve.
That's right. Yeah.
You see how these are narrow on the sides? You can see the
Yeah.
3-point line isn't the same. And
And
it's because of that tree that we don't have room and couldn't possibly include 2 full-size basketball courts.
All right, so leaving the basketball court issue alone, I still don't understand why this was sold initially as a playground that was accessible for all, and we're trading it in for 2 more basketball hoops. My 2 cents, just where I'm coming from.
Well, if you take a look at the features that we do still retain, we have focused on accessibility throughout those. I just want to reemphasize that it at every turn we were looking at accessibility and making a really inclusive playground. Now we're losing the swinging element for all children in this trade-off, and it is a trade-off because we don't have enough space to do all the things. But just want to point out that the remaining playground, a lot of thought was put into making that very inclusive.
John, I get what you're saying, and we appreciate that. What I'm saying is, from where I'm sitting as a member of this committee, I don't love this trade-off.
And that's what we're looking for tonight, is if you want to proceed with the initial design, that's the feedback that we're looking for. And
The
that
initial
initial design was what we proceeded with based on the feedback that we heard at the input meeting.
Yeah, and Alex, as I said, the initial design with the 7-foot fence. All right, I'm done. Thank you, Leslie.
Yeah. Josephine.
Hi, has anyone done a study on the major age user of the park? Are they the majority under the age of 12 or are they adults? And the second thing I want to say is the way the park is now, I couldn't vote in favor of this plan because I mean, as a mother who's been so many times in parks all over New York City with a young child, I've never seen a park without swing. And certainly with that, in this day and age, that's something that is accessible for a child who may be in a wheelchair and it's not going to go in the sprinkler system and can't get out and climb on the mountain. There really is nothing there for a child who really has special needs. So if that's what this park was supposed to be, that's not what it is now. And I'm just wondering, did anyone talk about this at Botcher's office and what were their ideas about that?
Josephine, if right now the park is so dilapidated, you don't get a lot of little kids there. The basketball courts are what get the most use. So if we took a survey now, it would skew toward the adults, but that's not what really as a mother you're looking for.
Right.
Yeah.
So the point is you're trying to draw other people and make it
Right.
an inclusive park. Right. So this doesn't work.
Thank you, Josephine.
Yeah, I would just reiterate what Brad said about the plumbing for the bathroom. You've got you're gonna have a plumbing contract anyway for the water features, and it would be foolish ultimately to have to tear up your paving to put it in. You might as well do it now, and, you know, I'd really try to find the money for doing that.
Yep, that's something we'll be looking to coordinate moving forward.
Christopher.
Thank you. Thank you so much for reading our letter and going back and looking at this. I look at the problem not so much as what is gonna get removed in order to fulfill a promise, so much as how we are viewing the surface area geometrically and how we're using that surface area in a multi-purpose space. So the U12 basketball court was something that was spoken about, not in letter, but spoken about in the committee, and I know it was mentioned at the council member's office. And I know that there was representation for volleyball, and there's just a general call from Brad and others for a consideration of multi-purpose. I wish I could point my finger, and you can see right now what I'm talking about, but is there a chance to turn the U12 basketball court on a 90-degree pivot to increase surface area for accessibility pieces and still have enough space to create multicolored lines for U12 basketball and volleyball and other activities? Thus fulfilling the original promise of an accessible park while maintaining what facilities are presently at the location now.
When you're talking about the U12, you're talking about the smaller court? Is that what you're?
Yes,
Yep.
yes. And so if we were to pivot that on a 90-degree angle and turn that east-west.
Yeah.
And overlay the lines of the basketball court with the U12 court along with other lines for other sports, you would get more space to the north to provide more accessibility programming, yes?
Yes, but the volleyball court then wouldn't fit stacked on top of it to the north.
Are
That
you-
would be the-
Are
No,
you
it would
seeing
not.
the tree? There is a tree in the
Same.
middle of that
Yeah,
seating
what-
area. So
I don't
that's,
think you heard me. I acknowledge that there's no space in the north because of the tree. I'm just saying, could we look at the U12 court, pivot it on a 90-degree angle and add the volleyball lines and pickleball lines and whatever is necessary for multi-use in order to return to the original ask, which was to have programming for children that need accessibility, have accessibility needs.
Yeah,
And-
I think Leslie, you can go ahead.
I was gonna say, you're saying to overlay the lines on the court. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes. and to
Okay,
turn
so
the
that's
court
one
on
thing
90
that we try not to do. Steve had mentioned it before because of the conflicts of the groups using them. So we try to leave courts separate for their uses.
But in this particular instance, right, like
Mhm.
throughout CB4, we have courts that had overlay multi-purpose, and we've had the ability to make like smaller carve outs, like, so for Hell's Kitchen Park, for instance, there is a pickleball court. But we also have 2 basketball courts that run next to each other. East-west, right? So like, it's not a full court. In this particular instance, like we can't get away from the fact that adults use a volleyball court. You're not gonna change that general use. I think that like signage is necessary and education is necessary to say, hey, you're an adult. Priority goes to the child and to the parents on this space. So if you see children attempting to use this is not your priority space. It's a multi-purpose space with priority that goes to the children of the park. I mean, that's just the general rule of thumb that I think that we forget with our playgrounds and park space in Manhattan. And that's usually the cause for a lot of consternation and fighting amongst those looking to utilize spaces in different ways. So like, while I love that there's a volleyball court now and a U12 court, I think the onus falls on parks to do the proper education, the city to do the proper education, so that way this portion of Chelsea can have a park or a playground space that fulfills all the checkpoints, all the KPIs. And like, we just have to like live with the fact that a multi-purpose space has, or rather that a court has multi-purpose function. It's not uncommon, you know, in other cities where there's like fields to use projected lines and it's called 3D projection. They actually change the lines on the field. I'm not asking for that technology here. Certainly Parks needs more funding for anything like that to happen. But like cities do coexist very well with multi-purpose courts is what I'm trying to say. And I think
Can I
Yeah.
just interrupt for 1 second? If we were to do that, we could do it as it stands right now. And then that would give us the room for the swings. If we were to turn it 90 degrees, then you don't have room for the swings there. So
so
if you're asking us to overlay the lines, we can bring that back to our commissioner who does not like us to overlay lines, but we're meeting with her next week, so we can ask that question.
Yeah, I think it's something to consider.
Okay.
Not necessarily something that maybe the committees would agree on, but for right now, I think let's all chew on it. It's not
Yeah,
necessarily.
we can definitely discuss it during when we talk about the points of our letter, because I have seen,
Okay.
say there were volleyball people playing volleyball, and there are hoops there, and they're playing volleyball, people with a basketball is gonna go on their court and start shooting. And then there's gonna be a conflict, and they're like, well, we'll just shoot, anyway, I'm not gonna get into
We
it.
walk there's cars and there's people walking on the block. If they're playing a volleyball game, kids don't walk over there and start shooting hoops while they're playing. And that's not even what we're saying.
What city, what city?
No, I'm just saying,
Of course they do.
they're playing. Everybody's gotta get along. I mean, do we want swings or not? That's really the question.
So that's a good point, so
So I mean, a compromise is lines on the court. And adults, Saturday and Sunday, figuring out to work with some kids to play volleyball.
And if you're playing D1
That's all I'm
volleyball
saying.
in that part, you are far, you're way too far.
I'm just saying, to me, that's the trade-off. And we can almost get everything we want.
okay, we can talk about it when we talk about the letter.
Alex, I got a quick follow-up. The big court, is that a regulation size basketball court?
Yeah, I think it's 86 by 46. I think we have the 84 by 46. Yeah, I think that's the high school size, I believe.
Janine, can you do me a favor? I think Jordan from Eric Botcher's office is on. Can you bring him over?
Before we bring them over, they didn't respond to the lighting.
I'm gonna talk about that now. Hold on. I'm gonna talk, I'll talk about it right now.
Well, let's
but-
deal with basketball, and then we can yell at them about lighting.
Well,
We're asking.
so Parks, this tree, this one tree we're talking about, how much is this one tree, is seen as an obstacle for other things? Like, how much is it a hindrance?
So our typical, we don't take out healthy trees. That's kind of where our
Understand.
starting point.
I'm just asking
Also, if you
this-
take it out, you don't get swings and the basketball court. It's not
Yeah.
gonna get you all the way there.
That's what I was asking.
Yeah.
Sure.
Second, I know Adaptive Designs, there was a representative from Adaptive Designs at the press conference, and I think they were consulted on this. I just wanna know if anyone talked to them about the removal of these two major elements, the swings and the sway fund. And what was their advice or suggestions or response?
I think our accessibility expert kind of realized that we were in a difficult situation here. So I don't think, I think he was sad to see them go, but understood that space is limited, and this is just another direction to go. He was still happy with the things that we had done with the ramping, with the cozy dome itself is also another feature that it's for children with different disabilities. We can go on and on about the things we do still have. But yeah, I don't know. I think he was sad to see it go.
I'm not sure if you're talking about Parks Disability Coordinator. That's who
Oh,
John's
I'm
talking
sorry. That's what I'm
about.
talking about. Who are we
But
talking about?
I think you might be,
Adaptive Designs.
what were you speaking about? The group that worked with the council member with the press conference at the beginning of the
Correct.
project?
Correct.
We are not working with them. That was just a group that he was working with, I guess, at the beginning, when he was promoting the funding for the project.
I got another thought here for you, all right? I'm gonna throw another design question about this. Right now, there are 4 hoops, and my understanding from Jordan, which Jordan will now share with all of us, presumably, is that the basketball players don't want to lose a hoop. But what if we made that second court a half court? So it's just, you know, for a half court game. Flip the volleyball court 90 degrees. So it's the top half of the court and the volleyball court. Do we gain enough area to put the swings in the, what would be the lower half of the volleyball court?
No, you could essentially fit in the sway fun only by itself because of the clearance zones that we have, or maybe 2 swings. It's a trade-off.
We get one element back.
We get crappy elements back. We get 2 swings and a half a court. It's not.
The sway fund.
I mean, people play half court basketball though.
No, what I'm getting at is though, if we just put a line over a basketball court, we get it all.
Yeah, no, I understand.
And by the way, if they play there 7 days a week, I'd be like, we gotta keep the volleyball court. But they're there on Saturdays and Sundays. This kid's the rest of the week. So I just think we're making a big
Well, we can talk
sacrifice
about this in our,
for what this politics.
but yeah, hold on, I have two more questions before we get to Jordan, because I want Jordan to come on. I want to reiterate the solar lighting. Can we do some sort of solar lighting here?
We can be in contact with DOT. It's early in this project for that. We typically deal with them when we're a little bit further along, but that's kind of more of a.
They currently do not have a solar light that is standard, and we use standard DOT lighting.
Yeah.
9 months or 6 months from now, when we sit down to talk with them about the design, it's possible. You know, we've been pushing for solar lighting. I know communities have been pushing for it. It's really DOT that needs to give us the option to put a solar light pole in, because they maintain the lighting in our parks.
And you said, Leslie, you said they don't even have anything, they don't even have-
Currently in their standard catalog, they do not have a solar light. A solar pedestrian light that we can use in
Not a
parks.
separate.
Listen, we've been through this for years now. We've asked, can
I-
maybe this time, this park with DOT be a pilot program for one light?
We
to say,
will, we certainly will ask. I promise you that.
I get it. I know it's not you guys, Steve has explained it clearly that it's DOT, but we've asked, and maybe when Eric Botcher's staff comes on and say, can we put these 2 together in a room? Because I can give them 5 lights now, they could pick it. I mean, it's not complicated. They're all over the country.
City procurement is complicated,
But
Brad,
we
you
want
know
to be
that.
pilot though. We're not saying,
pilot.
Yeah.
we want to be under the pilot program. Can we please give parks a chance to try something? I know their hands are tied.
I have, one more thing, you know, the fence size, that's gonna obviously be in our second letter as well. But before we kind of get into this with, Jordan, because he might be able to shed some light on this. I just want to make mention again of what, David said, the bathroom. If this is a total redo of this park, it's in a great area, it's supposed to be a destination park. How there's not any bathroom that is, and I understand it's money, but there has to be somewhere, some way, even if it's a standalone, that we could get it in this renovation, in this design. The Manhattan Borough President is pushing public bathrooms, we have written letters about, everyone is talking about public bathrooms. Steve, is it just a money issue? Like, where do we find the funds for this? Is that it, or?
There's one other issue, which is we're doing a test pilot of 1 in each borough. And the park has already been chosen for that. It's Thomas Jefferson, and the pilot has not gone in yet. The pilot needs to go in. We need to see if it works. We need to see if we can maintain it before we can say we're going to put it in other parks. So the standalone is not ready because the pilot project has not happened yet. It's happening right now.
I mean, this is, I mean, I can't, is it?
What's the timeline for that?
Okay, you know, why don't we bring Jordan over, because the bathroom thing is.
What I'm hearing from Parks tonight is a lot of bureaucracy and our hands are tied and this is the way procurement works and this is the way we do things. And Steve, you know this, you're dealing with a group of people who think outside the box constantly. So I think that's where where the disconnect is right now, but I asked to hear from Jordan, so.
Jordan, welcome.
Hey everyone, how is everybody?
Good, so how, shed some light on.
I saw him playing volleyball Sunday.
Did you? You joking? Oh. Shed some light on the council members' wishes or office's wishes to take away these two major elements of the, you know, disabled access for kids to put into basketball. When I was standing there at the press conference about how this is the destination park and this is the, you know, all these new crazy elements are gonna be included, just give us, you know, give me the pros and cons here.
Yeah, so I mean, I know the council member's been pretty adamant about having two basketball courts here because we have those two basketball courts here. You know, he's heard from some folks, I believe, basically saying, you know, you can't get rid of our two courts. And I think, you know, our sort of thought is we have these two courts here. We've established that they are there and we can't remove one of those courts. They're the most heavily used function in the park at present. And, you know, those people who would defend the two courts aren't necessarily the people who would come to, you know, the community board meetings. And our general thought, and I think the council members' thought, was removing one of the courts would be a significant disruption to kids in the neighborhood, especially public housing residents who are not that far away. And that's why he sort of pushed for the reinstallment of two basketball courts and making sure that we maintain what we had in that park there as well. I can't speak more to, you know, the thoughts on the swings or the sway fund. I understand, obviously, you know, there are still design elements that Parks has included that are for children with disabilities. There's the sort of covered dome, there's the whirligig, things like that. But, you know, I know with the two basketball courts, that's something the council members been pretty adamant about from day one when we saw this design.
You know, it's funny, when I was in television and you would go back in the edit room and you would fight for something to get on air, and people would say, don't worry, no, if you edit it out, no one knows because they never saw it before, so they don't know what they're missing. But now we know what we're, you know what I mean? We've already seen it. We've seen it in the plan, so it's hard kind of to erase that and unsee it from our memory. Does that make sense? Anyway, but I understand, and I guess we'll talk about it in the oh, Nana, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, was the size of the court ever mentioned? Is it possible for us to, I know we'd be losing court space, but if we shrink the larger court and put the volleyball court back where it was, would that allow space for the swing set?
The volleyball court wouldn't fit above the basketball courts. There's not enough space for that, unfortunately. With the north-south basketball court orientation, if they were both smaller basketball courts, the volleyball court couldn't fit above it.
Yeah, how many trees are in the park right now?
I think it's 17.
And how many trees do we have in the plan?
We're replacing one that's in poor condition. There's one slated for removal along the alley. And we have two small flowering trees that would be going in. One.
Because it seems part of the issue here, and I know it's not a complete solution, but part of the issue here is, you know, and I hate to suggest cutting down a tree, but I'm wondering if that tree could be moved somewhere. It's probably been there too long, and the root system is probably too well developed to move it, but
yeah, it's too large to move, unfortunately.
I mean, we're trying to balance things here. We're balancing the basketball players, we're balancing the kids with disabilities and a tree. And the volleyball players and a tree. And unless, yeah, but Chris, I get global warming, but I feel like I'm in Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm worried about a tree.
No, but like I was saying, the tree isn't gonna get you all the way there. We could lengthen the court a little more, but it doesn't get you back to having volleyball, 2 courts, and the sway fun and the swings. It doesn't get you all that, you know?
Does it get us the swings at least?
Or the sway fun?
There's
No,
one of the,
it really doesn't do that much. You can make a longer court out of that junior court.
okay. And if I'm prioritizing, if I'm trying to balance all of these different things, I'm not sure the tree wins. That's all.
Can we go back to the page where it was the actual dimensions of the courts?
Yeah,
Those numbers weren't adding.
can you go, we were trying to
That's
go
Wayfarers, yeah.
this way.
Yeah.
So if that volleyball court, if normal volleyball court is 30 by 60, and it's almost half an acre we're talking about, why can't we put in those Wayfarers? Like, it just doesn't. How big are the swings?
You're saying if we remove this?
Yeah, but there's even a 3-foot clearance around, like a wheelchair needs 3-foot clearance. So how big is this Wayfarer? Do we have that?
The sway fun?
The sway
Yeah.
fun dimensions, I don't have the specifics on that. I know we need, I think it's about 35 feet in length for the swings. I think that's right, John.
Yeah, and just with the sway fun, remember you need 6 feet clear all around it with safety surface. So that's why it takes up more space than the actual object itself. It's got quite a large footprint.
Yeah.
But I thought you were asking about the sway fun, but I had a little trouble hearing. I'm sorry.
You answered the question, you know?
Yeah.
Okay.
Got it. Are you a member of the public? Do you have a question or?
You got a question?
Well, I am a member of the public, I'm also a former park employee, and I happen to live, it's George Bloomer, by the way, John.
Hey, George. Good to see you.
I live right around the corner from this park and go through there almost daily or every other day. And I think the answer to the volleyball, it's packed on weekends, the volleyball, there's 2 games going, plus people spectators. And during the week, I've even seen smaller games occasionally on weeknights. So there's a definite demand. And I think you're gonna have a real problem if you have 20 people playing volleyball and somebody wants to come in and play basketball on top of it. It's going to cause a problem. But there definitely is a need for volleyball there, I'd say that. And there's one other comment I had to make of this, besides all the items that were discussed here, I don't need to comment on it, was the drinking fountain. I think I mentioned the drinking fountain, there's not a drinking fountain in the playground specifically, or in the play area, in the play space. It's outside towards the seating area. And I was just wondering if there was a better balance to the location for that.
Yeah, so right now we have one by the entrance and we have another drinking fountain. For the revised scheme anyway, we have one by the entrance. There's another one by the courts and there's a bottle filler by the courts. We could look into having a drinking fountain kind of at the midpoint of the alley on the narrow side. That's something we could look into incorporating inside the playground.
Yeah, I just think it's, it's probably easier for parents, taking
Yeah.
child out fenced area to use the drinking fountain and then come back in. Sure.
Yeah, and we looked into incorporating it just inside the playground entrance, but unfortunately those chambers are so deep and it would be close to that tree there that it wouldn't fit. That would be an ideal space for it just inside the playground gate, but I think incorporating it in more of the narrow portion, we can look into that, definitely.
Because also, if you're playing down closer to the 25th Street in the dog leg, and you want to take kids to get a drink of water, so long shot.
Yeah, I think some part in the middle might be a good spot for that. We'll look into that as we move forward.
Thank you.
Oh, one more comment.
Yeah.
I do like that you put in the seating area, because I did know I made that comment during the scoping meeting, and I appreciate that. I'm sure it's not just for me, but.
Just for you. Yeah, I mean, that was an important part of the feedback that we got in the input meeting, a need for passive space. So that was a need to preserve that moving forward, even with the revised scheme.
Janine, we had someone from the public, but I think he dropped off.
No, I
No,
brought
I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Oh, we can hear you.
Can you hear me here?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you. I found a site that said the following. New York Parks has a quarterly ADA advisory meeting open to the public and disabled leaders to suggest programming options. Alex, have you attended these meetings?
I have not personally attended those meetings.
Okay.
No.
Has anybody from the Parks Department attended these meetings?
Our disability liaison, Chris Noel, who was at the community input meeting, I believe he attends those
Okay,
meetings.
but nobody here who has designed this park has actually attended any of these ADA advisory meetings. Is that correct?
I haven't, no.
Good. Okay. I attended 4 days of workshops from the National Inclusion Project today, and we have people designing this park that actually are not learned in creating inclusive playgrounds. Chris Noel may know something about this, but the actual architects don't seem to be very learned in this. And this is what you get from that thing here. I could say a lot more here. I'll say one more thing. I use the volleyball court to teach people how to use a wheelchair and have fun with it. And I was there several weeks ago, and the pickleball people tried to chase me off, saying it was their court. You do not allow like this to happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bob. We appreciate your comments and for coming. Before we let Parks go, I do have one question because I think it's going to be brought up. Can you give us some examples of, I mean, I'm sure there are examples. You guys do have courts that have obviously overlapping lines, correct?
Yes, we have definitely done that in the past. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's not like some sort of, you're not doing that going forward or anything like that. You just thought in this particular case, it wouldn't be appropriate.
Yeah, in our internal reviews, go ahead, Leslie.
Yeah,
How do you want to represent it?
actually, it's something that the commissioner over the years has seen, that we are having conflicts with two uses on a court. So we're looking to make sure in our future designs that we're not doing that overlapping. That's not saying that for specific cases, you know, if there's a request for it, we will certainly look into it and discuss that with her. So if that's something you're going to write in your letter, that's, you know, that's something we can discuss next week with her.
Well, can I just say that in my experience, we do it with sports that don't have overlapping seasons. So that, for instance, we have baseball fields where we have overlapping soccer or football lines. And so we issue permits for baseball basically in the spring and summer, and for soccer and football in the fall and winter. So even though we may have overlapping lines, we do try to minimize the potential for impacts, for conflicts. And more recently with pickleball, there are instances in which people have put down pickleball lines, and actually we have as well on top of handball courts. And we do that where we think there isn't that great a demand for the handball, but even there, every now and then we do get handball players who are not happy about the fact that the space has now basically been taken over by the pickleball players. And we have some ongoing issues actually down in the village on that issue. But it is not an easy situation, and when we are trying to avoid it wherever we can.
And in particular, we tend not to do volleyball and basketball because volleyball has post holes in the ground. And a lot of the times that cover for that post hole gets removed and creates a tripping hazard on another court, like the basketball courts. I think one of the examples of the basketball volleyball overlay is at Columbus Park downtown. And there is a huge tripping hazard with that volleyball post hole in the court itself. We were able to do it there because we have multiple basketball courts.
Leslie, I just want to defend the parks on something to the public comment there. They designed a park that had ADA in it with their staff, and it was here. They were asked to change. So I don't think we should pick on them regarding that. They were told to change it to this. So I just hope that gentleman understands that they did have a full ADA program, they did have the swings, they were told to take it out. So we're trying to come with a compromise to put it back. But maybe there's too much volleyball and it can't go, you know, I just think the board after this, we have to decide, but I just want to defend them on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else, for parks, so we can let them go and we can talk about our points for a letter?
How long will it take and when does it start?
Oh, Brad, brings up a good, well, once it's decided upon, what is the timeline?
Our design completion is targeted for the end of June, which we were previously ahead of schedule, but now that's the likely end date for the project. Yeah.
Wait, the end of June is
When our design phase will be complete and we'll enter the procurement phase.
so
But we really need to be able to,
We need clear direction as a result
clear
of this meeting.
directions so that we can proceed with the contract documents, or we will
Yeah.
still be behind schedule.
Yeah, let me just reinforce that point. We really have to settle on the design pretty soon because preparing the contract documents that are needed for the design for the procurement phase is probably going to take 5 or 6 months. Those are detailed documents that are relied upon by the contractors when they submit their bids. So that's part of the design phase. So, you know, it may sound as though it's we're going to be working on the actual design for another 7 months. That's really not the case. The design itself has to be agreed upon pretty soon, so that Alex can spend those 5 or 6 months completing the contract documents.
Just so I understand, June is their goal to be done with contract documents and design. Then from that point, how much longer to build the park?
Okay, well then, after the design phase is completed, which includes those contract documents, the procurement phase, which includes the bidding process, can run 9 to 12 months. And then we would be able to.
So that's 2 years before shovel in the ground, is that correct? Steve, only bringing it up is because they're gonna be demoing, Elliott, the parks, so they're gonna start demo, in Niger. They're gonna start taking those parks, and as Chris was saying, there's gonna be a big overflow. And for basketball, all those parks are going, right? They came to us at land use and said, we're starting demo. So I think we have Eric Botcher's on here, 12 months to sign a contract. I mean, we're in trouble here. We're gonna be losing real parks here for Niger housing, and we need this park up and running.
Well, the park is not closed during the procurement process. The park is only closed during the construction process. And then the procurement phase involves having 2 sets of lawyers reviewing the contract documents before they go out for bid, actually soliciting the bids, reviewing the bids, checking them against Vendex, talking to the contractors to get all their paperwork and insurance in order, and then sending it to the Comptroller's office, having it registered. It's not just soliciting the bids. There are a lot of steps in that process, which is why it would take 9 to 12 months.
Steve, when I got on the board, it was 6 to 8 years to build a park. You dramatically dropped it. So I know what you're up against. That's not what I'm getting at. I'm just trying to say there is some need that we're gonna need, as Chris brought up. And
listen,
obviously, we gotta give them design direction so they can.
Yeah, I mean, we understand the situation. We know you're coming to the community board for some sort of direction because the council members you had a design, the council member's office is now pushing for something very specific in the second design, and you're looking for some direction from us. So I think we're gonna have to talk about, you know, kind of on this committee where we want to go with that, which is gonna be interesting. But we want to thank Parks, and we'll let you guys go, and we'll, I guess you'll see our letter, but we will be in contact about this.
Ski basketball.
And I guess it's worth noting that since we are meeting the commissioner next week, it would be helpful to have the letter by that time.
Well,
I believe we're
Okay.
meeting next Wednesday. Is that right, Leslie?
I thought it was Friday.
Is it Friday? It's Friday next week.
Yes, it's next Friday.
Okay.
Yeah.
wow. Okay,
So you need a motion to write a letter.
I don't think we're there yet.
yeah, I mean, we need a motion, yeah, no, we're there, but we're just talking about the points of the letter.
Can we do table discussion and have a presentation of the comptroller's office and then go back to,
Why would you want that?
so that we have time to digest while we have a presentation?
I think, no, I think we talk about it, let's
see former chair throw up his hand. Are you a motion?
let's talk about it now. Thank you very much, Parks, we can, I mean, we'll let you go now, I mean, it's, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Bye-bye. Okay, guys. Oh, Marty's on.
I'm not ready to make a motion to write a letter because I don't know what the letter should say.
Yeah, so I think we have to talk.
I mean, I know what I would say, but I don't know that anyone's gonna agree with me.
Hold on 1 second. Marty, were you here for that discussion? Marty, can you hear me? You're muted. Okay.
No, we can't hear you, Marty. Now we can't.
No, we can't. We can't hear you, Marty. You're muted. Your little mic is on red.
I heard a good part of the discussion. I did not hear it all.
Okay. So guys, this is the crux of the matter. This is it. I mean, this was supposed to be a very specific use, no, I shouldn't say specific use, broad use, actually, playground. And I understand taking away one basketball court when there's two there and a volleyball court, we're gonna keep a basketball court, or at least the council member's office wants to keep a basketball court, which means they are sacrificing two very big elements of this adaptive design. So I think they would like direction from us because I think they're in the middle here of what to do. So if anyone has any thoughts, please say them now because we will incorporate it in a letter that will give a motion for. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, there was a vision for this park, clearly, and I remember the press conference and I remember the vision, which we were all excited about it. And you have a vision, it's like wanting to have your cake and eat it too. I mean, you've got to sacrifice something if you want to build the park that you want these people to come to and enjoy. Apparently, either something wasn't thought through. I mean, I don't know where the reality set in that we can't not sacrifice a basketball court and have everything that we dreamed of. So we want everything we dreamed of and what this was purported to be, or we want to keep everything we had and squeeze this stuff in. I mean, that's what we're trying to do now. We're squeezing it in around the existing basketball courts. That's not what this was supposed to be. So I don't know, we can do that, or we need to discuss it with Eric's office again. What do you want?
Yeah.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. I like the first design better than the second. I like the inclusiveness of it. I like the swings. Yeah, the pickleball court feels like it's crammed in, but that's so popular that I understand why it's there.
Volleyball.
Oh, volleyball, sorry. No, that's been a central part of the park. And I respect Eric Botcher and his desire to keep two basketball courts, but it is a trade-off.
Yeah,
And I don't even know what the committee feels about that. I may just be a lone voice saying I like the first design better.
Christopher?
So I think 16 months ago, nobody on CB4 could have wrapped their minds around a public housing campus being torn down and losing green space and park space there. We're there now. And NYC residents are stakeholders in this playground. losing, the council members asking for the maintaining of certain programming because there's going to be lost programming elsewhere in Chelsea. It's a bird in the hand is worth more than two in the bush here. I think if we can get part of our accessibility programming in while still serving residents of NYCHA who are going to be temporarily displaced and who are permanently losing green space, while also finding new life and new breath in a public space that considers children who have special needs, is a win for us. I think we win in the middle, firmly. But what that looks like, I don't know. But I think we're dancing on a razor's edge here.
Anyone else? Not at this point. Now this is just, I'm sorry.
I'm thinking,
But we know,
I'm thinking to go with what Chris was just saying and what Sally said. I mean, it's a question of making a choice. And we can't satisfy every constituency. There was a press conference saying this was going to be accessible. I think we owe that. There are other basketball courts. There are basketball courts at Chelsea Park, 2 blocks north. We don't have another accessible park. So I'm leaning toward Brad's solution, which is double lining that basketball court for volleyball and putting the accessibility stuff back in.
So you're saying that there's no accessible park nearby, is that one of the reasons why they wanted to make it here? I still feel more comfortable making a decision on this if I knew, this is at Penn South. I honestly don't know how many kids are there, how many are using the park, I have no idea.
It's a natural, but it's in really bad shape, so to say what's going on now to what it's gonna be, they're designing it for the use.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think Eric's saying, hey, the big use now is basketball.
And that was the same philosophy that went to redesign Ramona Ponte. It wasn't what is the community now, but what the community is going to be.
Because it's changed, as Chris said, it's changed since this press conference, because we didn't know that this whole NYCHA thing is going to happen, so.
I don't think the NYCHA thing is a big,
That's years away. So
Yeah, let's not, the NYCHA thing is not, I think this boils down to what the community envisions for the use of this space. It's kind of like, I don't wanna say a brand new space, but it is. They're renovating this whole new park. And personally, what I think is that it was, the vision was a design that was awesome for children with disabilities, and it was going to be quote unquote a destination park. It was a one-of-a-kind park. They don't have sway funds everywhere. This is so for the usage, like if you have a kid in a wheelchair, let's go to this park. It was a place to, I'm sorry.
I said you don't have to be a child in a wheelchair,
What I'm saying, it was for kids with disabilities. And now I understand what the council member is saying, because, I get it. There are people, now you're gonna displace people who are actively using a basketball court. It's not like it's not being used, it's being used. And these are people who play basketball and they're there often.
they're actually the only ones that use that park.
Yeah, well now, yes.
Unless we go back and make the whole thing a dog park.
But there are.
We're waiting for that. We're waiting for that.
Jordan actually gets credit for a lot of it.
They may not be around the corner, but there are options for basketball, that's.
Right, there are options for basketball, there are no other options as a destination.
Exactly.
When you minimize resources.
Katie and Candace.
Pushing for competition.
Well, Christopher, Katie and Candace.
So are we saying potentially the smaller basketball court gets double line for basketball and volleyball? And the volleyball court reverts back to be the sway fun and the swings?
Yes.
I think that is a good compromise. And, they were talking about, they have different permitted uses for when they do baseball or football and soccer. I think they should be able to make it known, talk to the people who do volleyball. You get your volleyball on the weekend and the rest of the week it's basketball. It shouldn't be that complicated to do. And talking about like the removable poles, they should be able to take those out and have a cover that doesn't create a trip hazard. That's not rocket science. We have the technology, yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna throw a wrench in that, and that seems like a very plausible solution. We heard Parks saying that Parks the commissioner is straying away from that.
Leslie,
So I did-
they also.
Because they don't wanna have to make a decision. Someone has to make a decision eventually.
No, meaning they're straying away from double lining because
Yeah.
of conflict.
Because they don't wanna have to go in there and say, hey, guys, put a sign up and say, Saturdays and Sundays, this is a volleyball court. Monday through Friday, this is a basketball court.
The problem you have with that, though, is Saturday and Sunday, it's a volleyball court. Well, I just showed up with my basketball and there are no volleyball players here, so I'm gonna play basketball, and then the volleyball players show up a half hour later.
Then they need to coordinate times, like.
But,
it's
and they're not
difficult.
gonna, they're not gonna, the permitting issue that Steve was talking about was a red herring, because you're not gonna permit this.
Yeah, these
part.
aren't permits.
This is
not-
an open area. If they get there with their team, like
Yeah.
anybody, they hold the court, they put the ball up, and then they start. It's like anything.
But what if the basketball players are there first?
That's what they have to work out.
But then,
They're grown adults. And by the way, it's open, Leslie. They might have to find something else. They may have to get there early.
I let the Candace go ahead.
My question, I kind of remember us going back with another playground, you keep saying this, destination park. Isn't there another accessibility park being built by like Bella in that area? Didn't we approve something for that, like a big
Yes.
tower, like, and that was supposed to be a big accessibility?
It wasn't, but it doesn't have, it's accessible to wheelchair, but it doesn't have features that like a sway fun or a sway, adaptive swing. They made like widening. Remember, like it was like a ship or something, whatever that was, they had widening
or something.
wide, like there was ramps that were there, but it was,
Yes.
yeah. But it wasn't necessarily had like these very unique elements.
I remember just like even in that middle part, there was like one part where it's just grass and nobody can be able to use. Can we maybe say, hey, throw the swings in there? Or throw a volleyball court in there? I mean, maybe we know where
Where, in Bella Abs?
Yeah, because there was a part.
I
of
think
like,
that ship has sailed.
That ship has sailed, we're
Yeah,
done.
you're not gonna,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get a shovel and.
Yeah, okay, anyone else have a say on about overlapping, let's talk about that, yeah.
I think they mentioned that part of the issue, or they would allow overlapping if the seasons don't like happen at the same time. And as far as my understanding of like high school level volleyball and high school basketball is winter season and volleyball is fall season. I'm not sure how it works on like.
So I think this is more like rec. I think these are just people who grab a ball and come out and play. It's not like team or leagues. I mean, they might have some sort of informal. I think it's kind of like pick up our ball and let's go play. So I don't think I know what you mean. I don't think it adheres to a specific season.
The basketball players are getting something, because right now they have 4 randomly placed hoops, right? Is that what they
Randomly
said?
sized, one is not regulated. Brett Pfeiffer, was it Brett Pfeiffer?
Yes.
He was the one championing a high school sized court.
And now he's getting a high school.
Sized court. And like I said.
So they are getting, the basketball players are getting something. They're getting a full.
Great things.
Yeah.
The little short one's perfect for me.
But losing programming is very difficult on communities, and when you remove a court, you displace to another place and you create friction there.
Yeah. So you know what, Jennifer, go ahead then, if someone wants to make a motion.
So I apologize for being in late, so I just wanna make sure I understand what they have now is a basketball court with 4 different.
Unregulated.
Unregulated, and so is there a volleyball
No
court there?
Yes.
So there's basketball and volleyball,
Right.
and then
There's 2 basketball.
there's 2
There's
basketball.
4 basketball hoops, no courts though.
They're just kind of randomly placed around the edge.
Yeah, I mean, there's space for 2 courts.
Imagine if we put a hoop by the exit sign, a hoop where Brad is, and a hoop over
No,
here. and a hoop by the-
there's a court, they go back.
They're not lined.
No, I know.
Yeah, but
There's space.
it's meant for up down basketball.
So it's not great, the situation now.
It's bad.
It's not great, and
Yeah.
then we have the first iteration of what the park was gonna look like, and then the second update that we saw. And we are gonna decide amongst.
I think the first one was the vision, as Sally said, The second one is because the council member got feedback from, I think, probably some in the local community about the worry of taking away one of the existing basketball court spaces.
Because they have 4 hoops and they would only have
2 now, correct. So I think he is responding to those, exactly, those concerns and saying to Parks, hey, we need to keep the second basketball court in, or court space in, which obviously goes back to Parks, and they have to take away some of the elements that they presented to us to begin with. So it's really,
And then when this was presented, it was to be an accessible playground. And I'm assuming that there was a request or a need for that, and that's why it was going to be put in.
correct. Correct.
Correct.
I mean, I remember the press conference, the speaker came, she came down and she was talking about the usage of this playground.
Okay.
Does Eric know of the compromise? Does he understand what we lose by adding the basketball courts? Or he has?
Oh, I'm sure.
He already
I'm sure.
knows that.
Jordan's here.
Okay.
Jordan?
Yeah, but has Jordan already knew this? In other words, Eric understands.
So Jordan.
We saw the design, so we've seen that, yes.
And so he was okay with that.
So Jordan, this is where this is the council member's vision, right? This is what he got the funds for. We understand that. But he is okay with taking kind of diluting the original vision and taking away these major elements for the set, like just.
I haven't spoken to him directly on that. I know he's very adamant about the 2 courts. So, I haven't spoke to him specifically on the design and the loss of, the swings and the sway fund, but I know very much the 2 basketball courts is what he is hoping to achieve and wants at this space.
Brad?
No, we didn't discuss taking away the passive seating. Maybe we get to keep the 2 basketball courts, a volleyball court, and the passive seating area to be for some swings and.
I just don't.
I think they said there wasn't enough.
There wasn't enough room.
It goes back to your point about a tree,
Yeah,
but it might be a possibility to say to them, hey, I don't know, do we say to them, go back, can you take some of the passive seating away and put the swings there?
yeah.
Or
Just cheating.
Janine, do you have the plan, or can someone put the 2 plans up, the side-by-side plans?
Janine's still there?
Yeah, Janine's up.
Max is still there too.
Max is there too. So it's Steve.
They just didn't log out.
Janine, can you hear us? Parks, anyone?
You should have just mentioned that.
Are we still being recorded? We still on?
We're still on.
Is anyone hear us?
I'd like to make a motion.
All right, go ahead, guys. Lowell's making a motion.
I suggest we write a letter highlighting the Hobson's choice, is that the right one? Hobson's choice that they've given us, Sophie's choice that they've given us here. Yeah, that something has to give in order to achieve everything that this park needs to be for the community. And the best solution that we have is double lining the courts. Add in bathroom, the solar power, the fence. But really highlight that they've dumped this in our lap and said, well, here's one vision, here's another vision, you tell us what to do. And we're trying to serve multiple masters, and this is the best we've come up with.
second.
Gwen? This is discussion on the motion. Yep, on what he just said, you can comment on the motion.
Well, I wondered if somebody could stick up for the trees.
The idea does not take after sure. We're not taking out.
He said they're adding 2.
And they're adding, yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna end up with more trees than we have now. Yeah, but the only way we can do that is by double line.
Yeah, that.
And we get to keep our bathroom.
Well, we're gonna add the bathroom plus the solar power and the fence.
So the
Because
double
those
lining?
need to stay.
All right, let's vote on Lowell's and you have a question on the motion?
So just for discussion purpose, there's validity in calling out for double lining. I understand that like Parks is concerned about conflict because there's constant news. about the invasion of pickleball in West Village and other parks, and just adults not adhering and acknowledging that park spaces for kids. That shouldn't fall on us. You know, if there is conflict and double lining, that falls squarely on the parks and the city, actually the city long term, for not creating enough park space. We shouldn't feel bad about that. I think we should vote for the motion in its spirit, because it is probably the most difficult decision, knowing that in the future there is going to be friction there, but we do get.
I'd like to amend the motion. I'd like to add a point. I'd like to add a CC to Mayor Adams and say, we wouldn't have this problem if you gave 1% to parks and we had more parks. We wrote that letter, but this gives us another chance to say, here's a concrete reason why we need more parks.
So I'm just gonna bring something up on the motion. If we do the double lines, and that's in our letter, the reality is we are effectively taking away a volleyball court. That's the reality. I know no one wants to say that is the reality. The basketball people will be there. They'll be there on the weekends. They're gonna kick the volleyball. I'm just saying, I understand Brad's point about working together. I get that. But I think there is there's a reality aspect that we have to understand what we're.
Would it be possible then to have a volleyball court with basketball hoops?
That's what we're saying.
Don't put all of the basketball lines in.
Like no 3-pointer line.
Maybe have a 3-point line, but all those colored sections, make it less,
More like it is now.
well, make it less obvious that this is basketball. If it's a little more empty and ambiguous, and you have, you know, the two because you're getting the high school size.
It gives pickleball the opportunity to put lines in.
Well, that's gonna happen anyway, but at least this makes it not as prominently a basketball court. But if you make it a little more ambiguous.
He never has a bad idea, so.
If you make it more ambiguous, then everybody wins.
Well, Steve's on.
Before before Steve speaks and his hand is up, you also have to deal with the bathroom. We were told that the pilot project meant that we couldn't have it. That's a bureaucratic answer, and maybe we should push through that.
Well, I said we would include that, Marty.
We're gonna say, and they did put a footprint in there, Marty, for a single serve bathroom.
Solar lighting.
Anyway, Steve, go ahead.
No, we were just told no. We were just told the pilot project is uptown and we can't have
That
it.
was solar. That was about solar.
No, he's right. They said
No, it was about the
not in this-
bathroom.
not in this
Solar
first
was
round,
about
down
DOT.
the line. Guys, not in this, they said no for the first initial renovation. They said they'll save a footprint for down the line, which is pretty much no. But anyway, Steve, go ahead to talk about, I'm guessing, what Katie just said.
Leslie, I just wanted to say that we sent you the plan, so you should have it in your email.
Oh.
If you want to
But
reference it.
did you hear what Katie said?
But is she the one who was arguing that she was suggesting that we put the volleyball on top of a basketball court that has no lines but only hoops?
Yes.
Correct. More ambiguous,
The ambiguous basketball court. Yeah.
We don't want, we want to, I think we are leaning towards overlapping lines.
Yeah, I understand that.
Afraid we don't want to have the volleyball people effectively lose their volleyball court when, you know, all the basketball people come in. So.
Well, I think you're. Yeah, Leslie, I think you're right. I think, you know, I think they're gonna jostle for the space, and I think the volleyball people are likely to lose out. You know, I'll run it by other people at Parks, but I'm not very optimistic that that's something that's gonna work.
Okay.
We did discuss it before, and you know, we steered away from it because we just didn't think it was gonna, it was something that could work. And let me just, let me clear up something, and I think you guys already understand that the reason that we can regulate having the overlapping football and soccer on top of baseball fields is because those are sports for which we issue permits. we can control who uses that space, because it's basically teams or leagues that have to apply for permits. That doesn't apply, as you mentioned, with the basketball players and the volleyball players. They just show up. They're basically doing pickup games. We're not issuing permits for the space here at Penn South. So we're gonna have really no control. And even if we put up signs saying that this court can be used for basketball on Mondays to Fridays and on volleyball Saturdays and Sundays, people don't pay attention to the signs, and it's not gonna work. Maybe you and me would observe the signs, but plenty of people wouldn't.
Steve, it's just down to us picking the ADA handicap accessible park that was promised. And having people have to work together on a basketball and a volleyball court like human beings. Not saying that you're not wrong, but we as the board have to decide what lane we're picking. And it seems to me, we're going for what was promised, and we're trying to come up with a solution that can possibly work. And if you do solid lines for the volleyball and do smaller lines for the basketball, it'll look different also. And I'm not saying you're wrong, Steve, but I think our board's leaning toward the original program, and also gives Mr. Botcher his 2 courts. So, it is a compromise.
This whole thing is just a compromise. We're trying to thread the needle that no one else
So
has
there
done.
is can you just remove your motion? There's a motion on the floor. Can you
All right, I temporarily withdraw the
Yeah,
motion.
because.
And then so we can just for good order, we can
But
keep
Ken,
talking.
before you, guys, listen, we heard what Jordan said. The council member is, quote, he's adamant about having 2 basketball courts. It's not gonna, but then we're effectively getting rid of, as Steve said,
Volleyball, you say.
volleyball. No, Steve said.
Hold on. We are putting in a volleyball court that has the poles of volleyball court use. We're not taking it away, but they have to work something out. It's just like anything. They're bringing themselves. I know, that's my point. I'm not saying.
Kind of going off what Katie was saying, is there any way that just 2 extra basketball hoops against the wall, if we're going hopefully for that whatever size fence? And then I'm just trying to think, if they're playing volleyball, there's basketball hoops behind them, they're dodgy, I've seen volleyball play, they just go everywhere, and now we're gonna put
That they couldn't be used at the same
yeah,
time.
not at the same time, just like you're at volleyball, and then you've got this huge pole behind you, you gotta be aware that that's there. So what about we put it against the wall, just 2 hoops, and it gets 4 hoops, and that's what they had before?
I think we have to choose, guys. I think we could choose one or the other. I know we're trying to do compromises. I know we're trying to split the baby. I get it, but I think it's a hard choice. And I think if we don't want to choose, and we can write that in our letter, and we can totally absolve ourselves, but,
One thing is that they have to redesign the play equipment to fit in some swings in that right corner. Where they've got that other thing now.
We can kick it all back to Parks and say, we want design number 3.
Design number 3, stick it in the corner, fit some swings in. If you look at the back right corner where that one is, maybe they gotta do that.
To your
And they
point,
gotta perform miracles, Steve, and give us more.
to your point, Brad, that's gonna push out the process even further.
Well, you know what, if that takes a little more time, then it takes a little.
Leslie, did the council member come to you and let you know he was doing this, or you just go to Parks?
I think he went to Parks, and he didn't come to me. He didn't come.
He didn't come to the community board.
I mean,
This is not a good sign.
Eric can't
Yeah,
act right now.
I mean, he's still pretty new.
Okay, guys, is there a motion for a letter?
What do you want? What do you want to say?
Write a letter. I mean, it's just, what is it?
What's it gonna say? I mean, if you're gonna put a gun in my head between 1 and 2, I'm voting for 1. Screw Eric in the second basketball.
Okay. Okay, guys, I think we have to work with our council member, and we have to work.
I said, if you put a gun in my head, that's what Eric stood up with you there and said, this is gonna be a destination for, kids with accessibility needs. He can't promise he's a politician, he's promising everything to everyone. And we're supposed to solve his problem.
I'd say we kick
If
it
only we
back.
had a different council member, Leslie.
We kick it back for a 3rd design. Leslie, we kick it back for 3rd design and say, fit it in the corner.
They're gonna meet next
Redesign.
week. We could ask for the second design or third design with the solar, like maybe we went through the pilot, maybe we write a letter to DOT instead and ask.
I think they want guidance because they're meeting with the commissioner next week.
Right.
I just want to take off the topic of version A or version B, as long as we're writing the letter. I just want a second. I want to be sure we stay in there with our 7-foot fence.
Yeah, that's in there, that's in there,
The
that's,
fence-
don't
the
worry
fence-
about that, that's, we're just.
The bathroom and solar.
Okay, I'm gonna say the last thing, this is, I am actually I am going to offer an opinion that it would be against, I think, what the committee is thinking. I would tend to go with Plan B, and I'll tell you why, because I think as much as it kills me that we don't have what was originally promised, it was a lot, what they had, the plans were grand, it was great, it was beautiful. What we still have, there are elements in there that is very much handicap accessible, very much.
What elements are left that are accessible?
There's the ramp,
There's stuff right there. The whole space.
In this park, in this fountain area, there are the hoops that are wheelchair accessible, and then there's
the ramps that go up to the elevated play area.
Yeah, those-
It's not a sway fun, and it's, you know, and it's not obviously, was it just a swing set, as Josephine said, I've never been to a park that doesn't have a swing set.
Right.
But I think unfortunately we saw that plan and we can't unsee it. But if we go back and we just saw this plan and we're like, wow, these are some great elements that they're incorporating, plus we get a volleyball court, plus we get 2 basketball courts. Because we do have to remember, those courts are being used and they're being used by a population that does not have access, you know, there are not many courts. I know there are maybe 1 court or 2 courts down the road, but they need this space. We have to kind of serve, like you said, Marina. Janine, can you hear me, Janine? Because I just emailed you Max sent me the plans.
Yeah.
Two points
Can
to
you
what you
put that up there?
just, 2 points to what you
Sure.
just said.
Thank you.
2 points to what you just said. First of all, the cover page to the deck that they were using showed where the money came from for this
Yes,
renovation.
exactly.
And
It's Eric's
95% came from Eric.
Yes.
So that gives Eric some say in what happens. The other thing, on the flip side, since I'm still on the fence about this, the 7-foot fence about this, you know, it's the Penn South playground. It's not the Penn South athletic field. And the drawings really show, if you look at that with the 3 courts, with the 2 basketball and the volleyball, it looks like the playground was the afterthought.
I disagree with that last sentence.
Okay. There are people here shaking their heads.
You have to have programming.
We have to wrap this up, guys, because we can go all night on this and.
Here's a question.
No one else will make a
So
decision.
if we go option 2,
Yeah,
and what we say back to our normal other items, say, can you see if you can take a little bit of the other area and try to fit in? Maybe not the swings, but the one.
the sway
handicap,
one,
with
yeah.
sway one.
They said the sway needs a lot of space around it.
But okay, they-
There's room, they can make some entrance, they can make it happen.
Yeah, like
reduce passive space.
Right, we'd rather give up passive space
yeah.
to maybe shift this over and it goes there, or what about
Or
another,
that-
it fits, then shift the entrance over and it goes there. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, let's try to fit that in, and now we're losing the swings, but at least giving what we're, a little bit more to the handicap, maybe.
I mean, I agree with that. I agree with, and that's what I think. I really do think this is Eric's project. I think he provided, as Lowell said, 90% of the funds for this. Yes, I understand it was a big splash at the press conference. I get it. But I do think those courts are being used. And if it was any other playground, this committee would be fighting hard to keep those courts.
Listen, Steve could fit in that sway
Yeah,
there. They-
like-
So
Motion.
here's a motion, all right? That we accept Plan B with a proposed modification. That we ask that parks go back and find some space to drop in either the swings or the other thing, whatever it's
Well, I
called.
think the main, yeah,
Yeah,
I think we want the sway.
we want the sway first, because that goes with the mandate.
Yeah.
okay, so that is, and that's our
And
preference.
that's a smaller footprint. It's a smaller.
Right. And, you know, I wanna put somewhere in here that I still think this letter needs to say that we were presented a ridiculous choice of having to choose one or the other. And that we are deferring to what was presented to us by the council member, because I can see coming down the line, the disability activists are gonna show up at a full board meeting, sign up for the public session, and rip us a new one for going back on our word. And if anyone went back on their word, let the person who did it deal with that, not us.
But Lowell, hold on for a second then. If we say to them, they're getting everything you proposed, but the handicap's not in the regular swing. So actually, if we say we want the ADA version of
Yes.
it, then we are giving them what
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
predicted.
Yeah.
So we don't need to say we have the choice, we're saying we have to add this to stick to the mandate,
Yeah.
and now we need it.
Brad makes a good point, but hold on, the swing set was a regular swing set, except for one swing.
Right.
I mean, come on, we just need the swing part.
Right, but I think we have to say when we're writing this letter, if you want me to write it another way.
We do it by Friday.
Yeah. I think we have to say somewhere that the reason that this has to go back in is because this is what was originally promised.
In order to keep to the original mandate.
Yes.
Please fit in the swing, and take something that passive.
Exactly.
Also, due to the community input, they want the 2 courts and the volleyball. This way, we're only losing the swing.
Okay, one more thing before we second the motion. Sorry, the motion's on hold. In the letter, can we add, and I'm throwing this out to you, we are allowing you to get rid of 1 tree. Or no?
No.
They
No,
need to allow-
His head just exploded.
I was like, what is going on here?
We have to try and into my name.
Okay.
Well, let's second the go discussion, please.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I understand, because direction I think going in the right place, but from what I understand with that last visit up there, Leslie and Brad, if there are other places that we can stick handicap accessible.
A little up to the right of the
something else
gate.
about that area.
Let them do the planning.
No, but we should say that. I want to make sure we're saying that. In other words, we're going with Plan B because it's probably the right thing to do. I mean, you're right, it's there, and circumstances have changed. I mean, things don't always stay the same. So I get why we're in this position, and it's sad, but it's true, okay? But in the meantime, there seem to be other places that we can adjust for what we're losing. It won't be perfect, and I think that has to be clear in the letter. They have to revisit the overall plan to see where they can grab a little space for another something that addresses.
Well, I've got a question
Yes,
for you, Sally. Are we willing to give up some of the seating area to get that thing back in?
Wherever it goes, yeah, I mean.
That's what
it's
we're saying, Lowell,
something-
and the passive seating.
I want to say we get rid of some of the passive
Yeah, we're
seating.
saying, take some of the passive seating to add the ADA.
We are willing, we're willing to consider.
Also put passive seating in that removed side thing.
Yeah, and that little.
Yeah.
where they-
Okay, let them, okay, Matt, one more. Go ahead.
Yeah, should we also mention that the single use, like bathroom is, they'd probably consider taking that out to like put in a swing fund. What do we wanna do about that situation? Do we want them to keep like the placement for the single use?
I feel like the placement is just a nonsense.
It's for us to be, it's like.
The bathroom is down in that.
No, right above the volleyball.
Right above volleyball?
It's right there, and that would be the place where I would like see.
Right now, yeah, my point is, they can fit it in for future plumbing, if we're telling them to take some of the passive seating away for a bathroom and fitting in the ADA sway, they can do that.
So we put the bathroom where the flagpole was.
They can put it, you just got
They
to
can put
take that out.
It's literally this big, they can put it out, I mean, they can figure it out, I mean, they don't have to put it there, so.
I think.
Okay, can we have a second on the motion? We gotta get off this topic. We can do
Second.
another thing. Great, okay, let's vote on it. Everything that we just said, we can talk about details on the letter as well. Who agrees with that? We keep Plan B, with, but find space for the straight
I
line.
am less.
And, yeah, right, we understand the swings are sacrificed. We get the swings, but the swing fund is an element that we do not want to sacrifice.
Right,
And still find a place for the bathroom because it's literally the size of a box.
and put in the solar panels.
And the fence.
And the fence,
Okay,
and 1% for parks.
okay.
Let's go on this, Eric.
Can we have
And lay out the potential for plumbing for the bathroom.
As we said,
Yes,
already
bathroom, correct. Okay, all in favor of that? Marty, okay, anyone against? Present not eligible, abstentions, thank you very much. That passes. Good job.
Congratulations, Leslie. You now have an awfully difficult letter to write.
Yeah, okay. Okay, we have one more thing.
Leslie,
Oh,
Leslie,
yes.
hi, it's Alice. I
hi,
think I'm not supposed to be voting, correct?
No, we have quorum, you can vote, I think, right, Janine, if we have quorum?
Alice, if you weren't part of the extraordinary circumstances, then no, you were technically not, you're technically absent.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, thanks.
All right, thank you.
Gotcha.
Alice, would you have supported the letter? Why? Because I'm causing trouble.
Let's go.
You're allowed to ask that.
We're going to.
She's
our
allowed
next
to
one.
express her opinion.
Who is here, stop, guys, who is here from the office of, Comptroller Brad Landon? For the NYC Climate Dashboard Training.
I feel like she left.
I think they left already.
There was a
This
Stephanie.
power went out, it was too long. No solar.
She's been on solar.
Just on solar in the sun.
Janine, do we have a second presentation here on our agenda?
Yeah, but I just saw an email, says it might be a good idea for them to come back another day. This was at 7:23 and they had to jump off.
Okay. I have new business.
You're not,
No, I'm joking.
stop, Chris, seriously. Yes, okay, so, Janine, so we're just gonna put that on another, maybe next month?
Yeah, I guess, and then I guess prioritize them at the top.
Okay, that sounds great, so why don't we go on to old and new business? Anyone? Brad?
Yes, I think we put on the agenda to have DOT come to us. And present to us lighting that they are exploring that is solar driven. And educate us on what they're doing. And can we help? Maybe try one of these things in one of our, on the west side somewhere. Maybe it's just an idea, that maybe help Steve and Parks alone to say, hey, what are you guys doing? And then we copy the mayor and the rest of everybody on and say, hey, Eric, can you help us with one light?
Okay,
I mean, they have solar powered garbage cans, right?
we have it in our budget request.
So, I mean, let's.
All right, I have a new, it was an agenda item, but new business item. Janine, can you bring, Steve over again, please, real quick? Alice, can you hear me? This
Steve
was
is on
something you- Okay, this was something, Alice, you brought up last month about the lighting at Chelsea Park. Alice, can you hear me?
She left because you wouldn't let her vote.
No, she's there.
I can hear you.
Okay, Alice, this is we have Parks is here. And this was something we put on the agenda, your request about the lighting at Chelsea Park and the diesel, the fuel there, the fumes.
Oh, yes. So I live in the area, and quite often when I pass by, I will see the volleyball courts or the volleyball space being utilized. And there is a lot of fumes coming from the lighting system. And I was wondering if we were going to switch it over to the solar panels and have an energy battery on the bottom, could that help to alleviate all of the smoke and then the fumes and the gas that is coming from the light system being utilized? Right now, these are stadium lights and they are very powerful and they also create a lot of pollution.
From the generators.
From the generators, yes, yes.
So Leslie, at the last meeting, we talked about that.
Yep.
So I went to the field where my son plays football, and I took a picture of the actual solar. You see the solar panels, it's sent to you by email.
Okay.
The solar panels with the name of the company that makes it. It's exactly, it looks like a regular light tower, but it has wings on it for solar. It still has a motor, so it can do both. But it then can run off batteries, at least kill half the fumes. So they use it at my son's football field all the time. I just sent it.
Oh, yes, I'll look at it definitely. Steve, did you hear that about the generators and the smoke coming out? And
We have some portable light towers at Chelsea that we use to extend the time when both adults and youth leagues can play on the soccer field, which by the way was just recently renovated and reopened. And I sent somebody there the other night. They didn't detect any fumes. Well, I'll continue to send people there, but we're not aware that there's a problem there with fumes coming out of those generators.
Alice?
But is it, are you referring to the portable light towers?
Yes, when I walk by them, periodically I would smell fumes coming from them, and especially when I was playing volleyball at the time, we could definitely smell them. Now, I haven't been there since you renovated, so I'm not sure if you're using the same lighting system that I was privy to when I was playing volleyball there.
You were playing volleyball there?
The New York Social League will have their with the space from you guys in the evenings. We play volleyball there, and you would turn on
on the soccer field.
Yes, and you would turn on the stadium lights, and that's when we would feel. That's when we smell the fumes. So you may not smell them in the daytime since the lights are not on.
Oh no, they're not on. Yeah. All right. Well, I'll have to send people back again because the report they gave me is that they didn't detect any odors or fumes.
I mean, it's running on something, right, Steve?
Not solar.
No, it's no, they're not solar.
What lights are we talking about? We're talking about the lights.
The portable lights.
Oh yeah, those are. We have two fuels for those. So sometimes they're solar lights, and other times they're diesel. But yeah, there's also a battery there too for the solar. And when that solar battery runs out, yeah, then this is diesel.
So then it does create fumes, right?
Yeah, there must be exhaust for that light tower.
Yes. So that's what I'm referring to.
We'll have to send people back there because we didn't see it the other night.
Thank you.
But we didn't smell it.
She'll take pictures too, and then we can forward them to you, just so we get a better understanding of an illustration at least of what we're talking about.
Brad, where did you take those pictures?
I just sent them to Leslie, so she has it.
I'll forward them to you. Connecticut.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I thought it was one of ours. Okay.
It's exactly what you're talking about, Steve. It's a light tower, a portable light tower, but it has solar panels on it. So it can run off of fuel and the solar.
So Brad, do you want to make a motion to write a letter to DOT inquiring about the lights?
Just about this subject, should we talk to Steve about permanent lighting? Like, what does he need? Should we be talking about that?
Well, I think Leslie from the planning said that when they build or renovate a park, right? It's like a catalog of what DOT has for lighting.
We're talking about this portable one that we're talking about now.
He said he's gonna go back.
No, what I'm saying, but should we be talking about actually putting a permanent light instead of running diesel?
Right, I think we can talk about that in another meeting once we get like more pictures and we can understand better of like, because I like the solar option, what you're talking about before, and if you wanted to make a motion to formally inquire to DOT about that, because
I would like to make a motion to invite DOT to talk to us about their solar power option.
No, I meant a letter.
A letter.
Leslie, just a point of clarification. So the park lights, like the pedestrian poles, those are from DOT. DOT helps us run those. But the actual sports
lighting. We're jumping back. I know you're talking about, yes. I think we are concluded with the topic about the generator lights. We're gonna go back.
Yeah, so but the sports lighting is actually parks. So when you see the big towers.
Yes.
Yeah, those are ours.
Yeah. and we actually run those with our electricity through our park houses.
Like the ones at Chelsea Park.
Yes, so the big ones.
Yeah, but the ones that are permanently installed, what we're talking about now are portable lights. So we need to take another look at those.
Okay.
Those are ours, those are not DOT's. But the basic park lighting throughout our park system, we only, as Leslie Peoples explained earlier, the only standard lights that we install are light poles that are approved by DOT, which they can maintain. Because we don't do lights, they do lights. Except for the stadium type high-powered lights.
Okay, so instead of a letter, what we can do, Brad, we can talk to them in the before next meeting.
Yeah,
and
it's
ask them.
interesting, you have someone talk to us, present on what you guys are looking
Okay.
at. Can we help you, can we help in our district, maybe bring one of these out and try it? We'd
Great.
love to try it.
Awesome.
We'd love to be your guinea pig.
Okay, anything else for new business, old business? Ken?
I want to know if we can have sanitation come and talk about the compost bins, like they're in our area. Just like how often, I want to know like how often they get cleaned out. And because I noticed a lot of the area, they're being built. And just there needs to be a couple more in our area, I believe. So I would just like to ask them questions about that, just how they, like we said, how they decided on the placement. There's none near South Penn. There's a huge, and I know South Penn is still waiting for them to restart their compost that they have within their buildings, but not the area around there, there's nothing. So for the neighborhood.
So just for everyone, just to update everyone, we were supposed to have DSNY, or I should say we asked DSNY to come specifically about the syringe collection unit, because that was asked from another board member, not on WPE to talk about that. Unfortunately, the response from DSNY was that they are understaffed and they are not allowed at this time to approve any overtime. So I don't, which was a little confusing because this was the community relations department, and that's when the boards meet or at night. So we have to go back to them and try and figure out when they could come. That would be on our list then.
Can we just get the sanitation commissioner right here to take care of it?
I mean, I could tell you everything about how they do it, but really we have questions about how things can be done better.
Yes.
And they may need to send someone above Marissa Yanni.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk to Jesse about it. I better talk to Jesse about it. We're gonna have another conversation about it. Just so we can have someone who can maybe move some wheels a little bit.
Yeah, maybe start that person at noon so they can work their day out. I'm doing it tomorrow with some white guy. One more thing.
Yes.
Since we are environmental, is that rats? Or is that quality of life?
Rats?
Rats are house. No, rats are house.
So the reason I bring it up is,
Yeah.
you know, I think it was 2 weeks ago, it was in the Post, Upper East Side, they came up with the carbon dioxide, you know.
Yeah, I saw that.
And it's working great, and I was like, can we get a pilot program? I mean, outside my apartment, it's I mean, it's like Flintstones, it's just like, they're running the rock quarry there, it's crazy.
Partly because you have that parking lot next to you.
Yes,
But-
and it's crazy, I mean, it really is
Wouldn't
nuts.
that be Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, which would be HHHS?
Yeah.
I mean, I'll inquire. We can pass it along to the
Privately hired that private
Take it to Jeff.
exterminator.
whatever they did on the.
And they did it on that block, and now they're doing it on the next block, and I'm just wondering, I mean.
That particular council member is very, very wealthy and can afford to hire.
Well, I mean, that
Let's-
block,
I mean, we
they
can-
got together, and they're like, we're down to almost no. And
Yeah.
they're moving it block by
I
block.
saw that. I'll inquire
I'd
about
love
that.
to see, can we get that going? for
Jordan's
us?
definitely aware of this.
Yeah,
People in Hell's Kitchen have already.
yeah,
reached out
but we
about it.
can follow up.
I'd be like, can Google sponsor rat killing or something like that? No, I
I'm
think,
sure they want their name attached to that,
yeah, something.
but, okay,
Move to adjourn.
great. Thank you, guys. We have one letter and a lot of stuff to follow up on.
I think that park's gonna be lost.
Thank you, Parks. Thank you, Jordan. Thank you, Marty.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Have a nice day.
Good night, everybody. Thank